In a socially distanced world, there's no doubt that technology needs to play a larger role in your customer experience strategy. But how do you go digital when you simply do not have the resources to make the big process and system changes that are required? In this episode of the Process and Automation podcast, you will learn how to fast track customer and user experience in your business with the power of low code. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Process and Automation podcast with the Automation Guys. And as always, with me here, my Automation Guys partner, Arno. Hello, Arno.
Hi, Sasha.
Yeah, in today's episode, we want to talk about how you can go digital with your business when you simply don't have the resources to make the big process and system changes that are required. Arno, and I'm sure you're with me on this. Low-code automation could be the answer, right?
Yes, we're seeing obviously a tremendous movement inside the low-code space. The pandemic has obviously altered the way that many businesses do their business. And both behind the scenes, back office operational processes, and when serving customers. And in many respects, the world of work has been sort of launched into the future with the pandemic. Prior to the virus hitting, companies were sort of used to work at the office. But obviously, with the advent of the virus, companies had to sort of hastily adopt new digital ways of operating. And if we look at our sort of virtual workplace that we all sort of work in, it's no longer a stopgap. It looks like it's sort of remote working is here to stay. And Forrester predicts that this will be a permanent thing. That people will sort of work from home even post-pandemic. So we are seeing a lot of shift in how people work, and I think that a lot of businesses are trying to reinvent themselves, and I think there's still a key to ensure that we still have customer experience or CX, as I call it, as a strategy inside the business. Because of course, customer experience is really important. That gives your brand a very good differentiator. And going forward, sort of after this pandemic, it would make sense for a lot of businesses to adopt this digital first approach, what we call to customer experience. And we find that low code tools is a really effective way to create these experiences and to ensure that. We're very agile in order to change these experiences. We need to be very flexible, and we need to be adaptable, and that's all critical to make sure that we could change at a very rapid speed when it comes to the need to change our circumstances based on our customer needs, our business priorities, and also to be able to continue to change. It's really important for us to be able to look at our business, see how we serve our customers, what the experiences are that the customers have when they interact with us, and be able to adapt to that. And I think that's where low code comes into play, because we can build those superior customer experiences, and we can ever evolve them. We can play with it, we can tweak it, and we could bring it into the market really quickly using low code. Compared to a sort of a traditional coding or high code approach.
Yeah, absolutely agree. So it's rather a matter of days, isn't it? Not months anymore, weeks. So we can do it really super fast. So let's dive into finding the best approach. So digital first customer experience is not really about positioning your company as a tech-savvy enterprise. It's about using technology really to make exceptional customer experience and user experiences possible.
Yeah.
So the first one would be, begin with your customer experience goals, whether these be faster response times, anticipating customer needs better, that kind of stuff, creating new levels of convenience, or even reaching new markets. So you could think about your website, how you interact with your customers. Do you have all these latest technologies like chatbots available to make that experience fast and swift? So when you have all sorts of goals, then redesign your process around these goals. And once you know what your customers, what outcomes you want to achieve for your customers, then you can identify which slow and manual tasks need to be automated. So when you go into all the details, you will figure that out, and there are lots of ways of doing that, and how to figure out and how to map your processes. We talked about this recently, and which disconnected systems are not really performing too well and are letting you down in what you want to achieve. So and while we're talking about technologies, so as you mentioned, Arno, so we can do things very quickly with low code. There are now so many tools available on the market to get started with low code. We are working with many different vendors. So it could be just low code workflow, low code RPA, low code chatbots. So that's generally what we have, isn't it, available these days. Our regular listeners will know that we're talking about this quite a lot here on the podcast. And if you're new, we recommend to catch up on all our episodes about low code to get a good in-depth view on all these technologies as well. So that's a little info here for you. So Arno, but we have good news, right?
Yeah, I think the good news is that, you don't have to have a massive technology overall when you want to improve your customer experience or create digital customer experiences. I think what we're saying is that, a lot of your legacy systems can still stay in place, but what we want to do is we want to bring automation technology and sort of overlay it in front of those legacy systems to create those experiences on those layers and be able to create very adaptive experiences that follows trends, new trends, experiences is very connected. Of course, what we don't want to have is disconnected experiences. That's very frustrating for a customer. And really what we want to do is leverage all of those existing investments that you've got and bring in some of the progressive tech to provide sort of a glue that holds everything together, that forms a very, very good, I guess, foundation for your customer experience initiatives. And again, I think low-code solutions are designed to solve process problems from the ground up. And because the development of process itself is made a lot more user-friendly, and it's a lot more easier. It's very commoditized, democratized, whatever you want to call that. And also, I think that it sort of reduces the gap between IT and the rest of the business. So, you could have a very kind of a cross-functional approach when you look at transforming your CX. And really, a lot of people talk about bridging the gap between the business and IT, but I think that with low code, because it's such an efficient way to create software and underlying sort of user experiences, automation, it is really very engaging. It's very fast. It's very results driven. It produces value very quickly. So it keeps people quite engaged. It keeps people quite enthusiastic about the projects. Projects don't tend to be very long running. So it feels like there are sort of results very quickly. And that's when you see that sort of that kind of differentiation between business and IT sort of really becomes a bit sort of fuzzier because everybody is just very engaged, everybody is very involved. Perhaps process owners know what they want to achieve in terms of their CX or their customer experience. IT know that they can deliver it very quickly because they've got perhaps very good low-code platforms like low-code
Mm.
RPA, low-code chatbot, low-code workflow and forms designers. So everybody kind of just works together very nicely and very quickly. And it's kind of sort of a very nice combination of people rather than have like a polarized view.
Yeah, so we recently had a new cohort of our graduate program starting, and one big part of this is actually also building a low-code sort of skill set and building an application. And they just picked this platform because it's cloud-driven, it is approved by IT. Everyone knows it is secure. Everyone knows it is capable in so many different ways. So they don't have to worry about that. Once it's set up and configured and approved by IT, and everyone knows sort of the best practices, they just got started. And after a week, they already say, "Wow, we haven't thought this is possible." So they progress so fast, and the results are there. So every business can really do the same. So they are graduates coming out of university with a bit of maybe tech enthusiasm, but otherwise with low code they can do it. Otherwise, they wouldn't achieve that much after a week.
Yeah, and I think graduates today are actually quite a good sort of demographic of people to create these experiences, because of course that demographic of people are very used to sort of interacting a lot on their mobile phones, for example. They're quite tech savvy. They kind of plugged in digitally across a lot of things. So I think they've got a very I guess a sort of a natural way to design really good experiences, because they sort of grew up with good experiences because of their technology use. And I think low code is just that enabler, right? So where if we look at a specific experience that you want to create for end user, that can be very defined, but then to execute is very quick, so you can test it. I think that's where the power comes in, because obviously the low-code platforms are quite easy to learn. So you've got ideation on the one side, really good ideas. You've got execution on the other side, which is very quick execution, which drives very quick results. And then also you've got the ability to change very quickly if you perhaps find an experience needs to be tweaked, altered. Perhaps you need to plug in a separate element in there, like an RPA bot, because there's a gap in the experience. Somebody waits, or there's a chatbot built in that can interact. So all of that's quite dynamic and very fast moving. And I think with the low code or the low code approach, it really accelerates that, and it really kind of brings that benefit out very quickly. And again, you talk about graduates, but I think that's such a great demographic. We see it as well, where they are used to CX, because, like I said, they sort of grew up with it. Not ugly buttons and stuff when we sort of grew up with the, sort of the first some of the first initial, I guess, sort of case management systems, which is quite heavy and very hard to sort of use.
Yeah, they actually also very used to sort of more the high level thinking. So what they very often get this task when they're at the university to think about a problem, how that can be solved, and they come up with high level or maybe mock-up screens, because they don't know generally any other kind of tech at that stage. But now with low code, you go very, very quickly from your sort of mock-up into a functional application. You go nearly instantly anyway, isn't it? So
Exactly.
so they can really transport that high level idea they had before now into a proper app in no time. And that power every business now has.
I mean, one example is that if you want to build an app, for example, and you want to have a the sort of the classic approach is, you need to think about the app, you need to think about the data model, you need to think about designing a database, and then you need to think about, okay, what type of forms am I going to put in the application? So it's the security. So there's so many things to think about. With low code development, you don't even have to worry about creating a database. You can just use a modeler to model what your data objects should look like. And obviously that could be your data objects, underlying relationships. So you don't even have to create a database anymore. Of course, the platform will create something in the background for you that could be used for reporting. Your data is still accessible, but it removes all of that complexity, so you could really just focus on the problem you want to solve. You don't want to bog people down with creating databases and knowing scripting language to create these databases. What you want people to do that creates these apps is really just give them a platform to say, right, what is the problem that you want to solve? What is the journey you want to take the users through in order to create those solutions? And that's where the sort of the UX elements comes into play quite a lot. So you can focus a lot on that. And then all of the other kind of technical peripheral things like security, login controls, password resets, database creations, styling, all of the sort of the heavy duty stuff that takes a long time and is also very, very costly in terms of, project development. If you use high code, all of that goes away. So you can spend a lot of time on really creating really good CXs. And that's why we like the low code approach. We like this sort of the speed.
Yeah, and I think we don't have any other choice really if we see what kind of sort of revolution we are now in. So everything has been kicked off 12 months ago, and before the pandemic, it was already estimated that it will just grow like crazy when it comes to automation and intelligent document processing, all that stuff. In some industries, long overdue anyway. So, and actually, to achieve all these changes, you don't find enough. You don't have enough resources to do the traditional way anyway. So, I think this is the only chance businesses have. And some businesses they have to overhaul and change applications, like hundreds of them actually within a company. And that's the only way, I think.
Yeah. I think a lot of businesses, we speak to a lot of customers, they do have quite mature processes. The processes are there. It's not a question where you speak to people and you still have to kind of figure out what these processes are. I think the issue we see is that it's just translating those processes into something quite meaningful that's automated. And this is where low code sort of really flourishes, because you could have a discussion with somebody around the table, data process owner and the subject matter expert, and once you get to grips with what that processes involve and how people interact with it, it's almost kind of quite natural just to listen to what people say and sort of just map that out with inside the low code tool. And generally the way people speak and the way they want stuff to work, that there's such a nice mapping of just literally taking that and then mapping it with inside the tool, and then almost refreshing the screen and say, "Is this what you mean?" And then they look at it and they're like, "Yeah, but could you perhaps change that so this step here is merged into one, and you can do it quite rapidly, and always just show them the result straight away." And I think that really impressed me a lot about the things we do is again just that speed and agility, that you could take a requirement from somebody, show them something, bring it to life. Immediately you've got somebody's attention because you've done that very quickly, and they look at it and they say, yeah, that's spot on, or can you sort of just change it slightly because we want to have a sort of a slightly different way how this is presented to the user, or if it's a process, perhaps the process could just behave slightly different rather than sending out an email. Maybe it sends out an SMS message or a WhatsApp message or whatever that be. So again, you always talk about the kind of the Lego blocks, but I think it is literally like that, where you could sort of use those components, string something together, test it very rapidly, see if it aligns with your strategy, see if it aligns with your process, see if it aligns with your the goals of your customer experience that you want to set, and test it. Do a test, and normally it feels quite when it's right. If once you start sort of kind of putting it through its paces, there might be scenarios where you think, well, it's not quite there, but at least it is a starting point, and we can evolve into a sort of a final version of it. Or it could just be ever changing, where you just have to be very adaptive, because there's new trends that you want to follow. Like I said earlier, there's new things that you want to sort of build into the process. We talk a lot about chatbots, so maybe you want to create an integrated chatbot experience as well as part of that. So there's just so many possibilities with inside this kind of Lego set, and the landscape around it to create something that is sort of fit for purpose for today, but might need changing without the expensive investment in very expensive coding that you have to throw away because you've changed your mind.
Yeah, and sometimes if you don't have the right Lego blocks over time with low code, you develop even a few special Lego blocks, and then you have your set of your sort of your preferred, or let's say your top 10 list of Lego blocks you have for pretty much all your applications. Then low code nearly becomes, in some companies, starts to develop into a no-code experience. So the more components which can be used are defined, then it's just a nearly more configuration than actually coding. So speed is even higher after like 6 months using the low-code platform within the business.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll tell you a real life story. We're currently busy with quite a large project that deals with insurance claim management, and it's a fairly complicated area. And so we're sort of a month into the project, and if we've managed to solve all of the sort of pre-claim setup, and and it's fairly complicated in terms of claim perils and activities, fee sets, and all sorts of very, very difficult thing that goes into a claims management system, including sort of who's brokers, where's the underwriters, all of that configuration, the roles, how people interact with each other, the sort of rules around it. And we haven't wrote one line of code. We have just used configuration, and we are able to model an extremely, extremely complicated sort of problem. Being insurance, you can imagine that there's a lot of things that hangs off a insurance setup, policy management, all of that. And that's very impressive. I think, we sometimes look at it and we still say, well, how much code did we write? Well, we didn't write any code yet, and it's just incredible. It is so different to 10 years ago, where if you would say this to somebody, that you'll be able to do something as complicated as this without writing a single line of code, they wouldn't believe you, right?
Yeah, absolutely, and that applies as well to sort of integration low code as well, isn't it? So nowadays you should integrate lots of these cloud applications and other systems. Actually, was just really low code or no code, which was a big task 5-10 years ago.
Yes, I mean it's absolutely matured so much, and I think it's it is such an exciting thing to bring into your business, and it's such a great thing to see people's responses to the speed of execution, and also just to change the way you create software, change the paradigm slightly on the possibilities that exist, even if it's really complicated. I think people, skeptics of low code, might look at it and say, well, it's only for simple things that it works, but that's not the truth. You can create really, really sophisticated, omni integrated systems with very, very sophisticated modules, including artificial intelligence, machine learning, RPA for the robotics side, where you can train software bots to do repetitive tasks. You can obviously bring in the mobile elements as well, because of course, if you create forms in a low-code platform, it's automatically ready for mobile. So there's so many advantages of using this approach. And again, we always think about real world scenarios, and is it fit for real world kind of application stuff that's really difficult? And the answer is yes, it is very mature. There's a lot of features as the low code landscape has changed over the last 5 years that allows people to really create very complicated applications very fast. And that kind of shifted that's a sort of attention to the customer experience more, because we know we can create these complicated applications, so we're not scared to do that anymore. What we're doing now is we were really focusing our efforts in sort of the innovation around how these systems perform, how they look like, how they feel like if people interact with it. That's where this low code approach is really quite special.
Yeah, and we started working with a couple of startups actually. So they have these ideas and new business ideas, new customer experiences, maybe in a very well established industry, but they just think, okay, we need to change the customer experience to this level, and then instead of they're going off and building from scratch with code like they maybe have done 10 years ago. They hired their coders on Angular, React, and all that kind of stuff. Now they're just doing getting onto the low-code platforms to actually prove that business model to the stage of sort of MVP. So that will be the sort of the first level. But these platforms these days, you can keep them actually and not move away after MVP. You can actually then scale and roll it out to your end customers. And they do this now in incredible speed. They have all these great business ideas, and they're using local platforms now to get it out to the customers, because that's very often where startups are different, isn't it? Startups in fintech, they're not really doing things fundamentally different. Still about transferring money to one person to another, maybe, but the whole customer experience, how you become a customer, how you then do the daily things in your financial requirements, that is different. And then testing all that stuff with low code as well. So
yeah, absolutely, because it's cheap, right? It's cheap and very, very quick to do it. And that's where it gives you the competitive advantage, because if you have an idea to create a new journey that will attract customers, you want to be able to execute fast. You want to be able to put it out very fast. You want to be able to test it. You want to be able to fail fast as well if you feel like this is not going to work, and not have the burden of quite a very expensive IT build because you are innovating and experimenting, right? So it is kind of ever pushing that boundary without breaking the bank, and I think that's very, very important. Especially IT budgets are spread across a business, and do more with less, and so all of that. I think low code is definitely one of those solutions that is worth looking into. Just to understand. And we always challenge people that we talk to, any prospective customers, to say, give us a scenario, show us a scenario of something that you field needs automation, or we need to plug a new process in, or we need to create a mobile app or a digital experience, and generally in a kind of couple of days, we've got something functional, which with sort of high code or conventional development would take a lot longer. And and that's a very effective way to actually test out low code and almost be sort of converted into that. It is something very tangible. It is something very progressive. It's very fast, and it is something that I think should be in every business and every organization.
Yeah, and this is why we're doing this. You and we doing these workshops, isn't it? Just 1 week getting together and getting actually that kind of stuff done, isn't it? So to try to convert people into this mindset low code can achieve it. Like 1 week, 2 weeks is enough. Doing the process mapping workshops, that kind of stuff, and just build the first thing together, and then everyone is just amazed. We had it with RPA. Everyone couldn't really believe what it can do, and this is a really good way of just getting started, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I think in summary, what we're saying is that with the low code approach, you can start very small. You can transform a process at a time, and this allows you to innovate the customer journeys that you need in small, manageable steps, I suppose. You can begin with the sort of routine manual processes that waste a lot of time inside your business, and then later on tackle more complicated problems as people get confidence in the low code approach. Also we say we want to unite IT and the business, and I think low code platforms create this environment where these specialists from different business units can work together to solve these sort of customer pain points and solve for better customer experience. So it just means that you can kind of build these solutions based on insights gained from your customers, and how they respond to the type of solutions you roll out, and you can really change that quite rapidly and fully exploit the full potential of low code then, because you can constantly adapt. And I think the customers will know the difference. They would know the difference that you are constantly trying to make those experiences better. Of course, we want to build solutions faster.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, building solutions faster. With low code means a simple drag and drop user interface for the developers, and tools that really span the entire app life cycle. So really everything from idea to deployment and scaling, security, everything really. So this saves a huge amount of time when designing and developing these new processes, and in general, you will get more out of your process optimization initiatives. And that also lets developers get more done. So that's the traditional developer maybe needs some time, but when they start using low code technology, they can really speed up the whole development cycle. Skilled developers have more time to focus on other projects that are important to the business and to the customers. So they may be overseeing a lot of low code implementations to just make sure architecture or general governance, that kind of stuff, and maybe other bits. But otherwise, you don't need the super skilled developers to do low code, right? So everything is defined pretty much. Just a little bit of oversight and guidance, maybe.
Yeah, and I think you need to be able to adapt with the times. COVID has taught us a lot of lessons. You need to be able to respond quickly, and I think the most important thing here is really to be able to refine and automate your processes rapidly, and this will allow you to continuously react to new customer needs and keep up with changes. I think that's the bottom line.
Great. Yeah, so if you like to go deeper into this topic and explore why low-code systems play such a valuable role in any company and in your company, and in the whole company's software strategy, just visit our website, theautomationguys.net. They will find plenty of free resources around low-code and other intelligent automation areas. So yeah, we have their previous episodes and white papers, everything for you to use to get started on low code and improving customer experience. And we also cover all aspects of intelligent automation and hyper automation on the podcast. I suggest please subscribe to the podcast, and you will be notified. So that's it, I guess. Thanks a lot for listening and your interest in low code and customer experience. Yeah, and if you like to learn more, feel free to join the Let's Talk Automation community. Join our Let's Talk Automation room on Clubhouse. So Arno and I, we host the room every Tuesday at 4 p.m. BST. And anything else, Arno?
No, I think that's it. Like you said to the listeners, there's a lot of content on the automationguys.net website. Obviously, a lot of previous podcasts that we touched on the hyper automation wheel. So obviously, I would invite everybody to go listen to those episodes. A lot of things are covered, and there's a lot of useful content and useful sort of information out there. And as usual, feel free to reach out to us if there's any problem that you guys out there as perhaps got, or you want to run past us. More than happy to assist or give you some guidance on how to approach it, and perhaps where low code and RPA, all of the progressive technologies, fits into a potential solution for you.
Great. Yeah. Thank you all. See you all very soon, and let's automate it. Unfortunately, that's it again with this episode of the Process and Automation podcast. If you liked this episode, please give us a 5-star rating, and don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any upcoming episode. We hope you will tune in next time, and until then, let's automate it.